This is the Team Objection podcast for October 29th, 2020, episode 459. Shaun made it back just in time. He's just closing the door.
Yeah, I was thinking this year, guys. Are you there, Dave?
This year?
Sometimes Dave just stares. I don't know if it's like a cardboard cutout or if he's actually on the call. So
this year has had a lot of things to think about.
No, so I was thinking this year, instead of a Christmas list for gifts, I want to make a Christmas list of like people that I want to contract COVID. And I would like Santa Claus's compliance in helping me make this a reality.
Well, I heard that apparently if you sign up to be a mall Santa, you could get like first in line to get the COVID vaccine.
That's correct. But then they canceled that because it looked terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I actually get the logic behind it. It's like, we want people out and about. We want normalcy. So if we get Santas vaccinated, they'll be out there and we'll have normalcy again. It still looks really bad.
If you're a Santa who wants COVID, you're at the top of the Christmas COVID list.
He's vaccinated. It's all good. That's how vaccines work.
If the vaccine works, which if they rush it out, it may not. We'll see. You'll notice that we're creeping closer and closer to Election Day, and I'll be damn gummed that vaccine's not available widespread like I kept being told it would be. It's almost like I never believed that to begin with.
And then, but they released remdesivir, or however you say that thing, and now their study is like, yeah, it maybe doesn't even work. So that's pretty cool.
I've heard remdesivir works better than hydroxychloroquine, though.
Well, it doesn't kill you outright, so I guess so.
Well, neither does hydroxy, but...
Yes, it does.
I mean, if you take an entire bottle of... like the one guy who drank the entire bottle of fish tank cleaner because he confused hydroxychlorinate for hydroxychloroquine.
Mm-hmm. That
would kill you, yes.
Well, he is... Yeah. Trump was at number one on the list, but he already got it. But, you can be reinfected, so I might as well ask for it again.
I mean, it won't really be a thing if you do, so you're kind of wasting one.
We'll see.
What do you mean? I mean, the steroids worked once. I don't know if they're going to work again.
I think so. I think we got to figure it out.
We'll see, Dave. If it's that easy, then why is this even an issue?
Because you don't want that many, because you can't give that kind of care to 100 million people. Weird.
Yeah. I mean, it should be a moot point in 5 days. It is supposed to be not necessarily a landslide, but a pretty comfortable victory for Biden by most projections. But I've seen those things somewhere before.
Like 4 years ago.
Here's the 4 years ago. Everybody's saying that the new projections are way better. If he wins again, I'm never trusting anyone on anything ever again.
That's correct.
Ever. Anyone. For anything. And I mean that. If Chris is like, we're going to start the podcast at 7 tonight, or 7:30, or whatever the time may be, I'm going to be like, no, we're not. We're probably not even doing a podcast, are we?
Mm-hmm.
Maisie's going to be like, Shaun, I love you forever. And you're like, no.
No, you don't.
Believe you.
No.
You know what?
You can't mean that.
Safely, let's just end things now.
Yeah.
That's the only real way to do it.
I'm just going to go down to my bunker.
Off the ring.
Yeah, ring's gone.
For now, I trust the projections. If they are wrong again, which they might be, I'm not deluded like I was last year, but if they are wrong, that's it. We're done.
You can see how they've changed the modeling, though, because now it's effectively trying to capture this entire snapshot of a series of results and not just saying this result is the likely outcome. Now it's like, we have Biden winning the Electoral College in 80% of our projections.
Yeah.
Which is a much more comfortable and small sample size, unfriendly way of doing it, basically. It's smoother.
Yeah. I actually saw one where it was 95%, and that one made me feel even better.
I saw that one, too. Although, isn't that a better way of saying... It's saying, we see that he's winning in 95% of scenarios, instead of saying he has a 95% chance of winning. For some reason, it feels better if you say 95.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small distinction. Yeah. But I think it's an important one, and it shows you all the different charts. It's like, all right, so here's the number of outcomes where Trump wins, and then it reaches the threshold, and then Biden starts winning, and it keeps rising, and then it tapers off. There was one projection that 538 had that had Biden winning the Electoral College 430 to 50, and I was like, I don't know about that. I know your simulation accounts for some extreme outliers, but that would be a mammoth Electoral College victory.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, as much as Trump talked about his margin of victory, which wasn't as big as Obama's, for the record, it would be funny to see him lose by a historic margin.
I would love it if he lost by 2,000 electoral votes. And you're like, but wait, Yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yeah,
want.
like Puerto Rico somehow got electoral college votes, and they joined in just to pile on.
The state of Shaun somehow got 1,000 electoral votes.
Yeah.
We'll see how things are going to go. I'll be in the office next Tuesday and watching intently as we're doing other work. Obviously, we could just get to sit there and just be like, how's it going? Watch CNN for 4 hours, but we'll see.
Also on my list is everyone that just went to Cafe Rio and wasn't wearing masks. Now, I'm not like a hardcore lefty. I'm not like banging down the doors to like join Antifa or anything, but I was pretty annoyed. Like visibly, I looked straight at people and like shook my head if they were in line at Cafe Rio not wearing a mask.
That, like, I don't understand why businesses don't have the guts to say, "Sir, you need to leave unless you're wearing a mask."
Who's going to enforce it?
Because you ask them to leave, and they're going to make a fit, and then they leave.
Well, so I guess
because that happened here. There was that viral video in Flagstaff 2 weeks ago at Babbitt's Outfitters of that guy Baked Alaska turned into a whole scene when he was asked to leave and then didn't, and then talked about his rights and blah blah blah. And to me, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think businesses should make an attempt, but who's going to enforce it?
Well, so but
some
like
guy making minimum wage.
So there's two. So exactly. So there's the question of they can, right, because they have the right to refuse service to anyone,
and there's a city mandate.
Yeah, but then the follow up being but then do you want to get into confrontation to that level with someone? And I get it.
And do you want to get in somebody's face who doesn't have a mask on?
Yeah, right.
Well, it's more so of like, "Sir, I'm not going to let you buy this." Like that would, I don't know, that'd be the approach I'd want to take. It'd be like, "All right, I'm going to pay for this. No, I'm not going to let you buy this because you didn't wear a mask. I asked you to leave. You didn't. I'm not going to let you buy this. Now what are you going to do? Just sit here till we call the police on you?"
You're welcome to.
It is kind of funny. I mean, there's always this debate about like personal freedoms versus the rights of businesses, and we saw it with gay cakes. That was one of the primary ones. But it's like, it's interesting to see some of the people who were insistent that businesses should not have to bake cakes for gay couples now turn around and insist that they are served for something that they actually cannot do by law. It's fascinating to me how quickly it can flip.
Yeah,
it's funny because I was kind of like I don't know. I mean, business should be able to do what they want, and I'm kind of like, no, screw you. If you aren't wearing your mask, leave. I don't want to serve. Like I'm consistent in this.
I would do that too, Dave, because I don't like. There's something about confrontation that I don't like, but I find very exciting. Like I will avoid it at all costs, but when it's happening, I'm like, oh yeah.
It's just such a weird thing, though, of like people begging to get to like, you have to serve me and I have to give you my money. It's like, no, we're good. We don't need your money.
Mm-hmm.
Also, people who are having COVID parties, I want on this list. But they're probably going to get it if they're having COVID parties.
Again, I think that's a waste.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I feel like that was something that happened early and doesn't happen much anymore.
No, dude, I've been hearing like... The United States is flirting with the idea that either we're going to get real strong on COVID and do mask mandate, or we're going to say we can't get ahead of it, so let's just focus on herd immunity. If it ends up even being a thing, we don't know. It could be. We could also get glaucoma. Who knows, really?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how Tuesday's results influence that, isn't it? Because it could be a very different direction. But guess what? The thing people seem to be forgetting is that it's not like the switch flips on election night and all of a sudden Trump is gone, if that's the outcome you're rooting for.
Yeah.
There is still 2 months before the inauguration where there's all sorts of things that could still happen. I'm not putting anything past anybody.
Well, I was glad that even my Republican family was like, if he loses, you don't have to worry. He's out of there. Like, the military is not going to allow him to just be like, I'm not conceding. I'm just going to stay. Like, it's not going to be
and that's the thing we keep going back to is like precedence. And no matter what you feel about either party, if one of them takes the rules to this extreme, all it does is open the door for the other party to do something similar when they're in power.
Yeah.
It is funny how I remember having people that were very far left saying that Bush wasn't going to leave office in 2008 and that he was just going to invoke some sort of rule to not leave office. And then people were very far right saying Obama wasn't going to leave office in 2016. It's like, so far for 250 years, every president has left.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I love is that it's 2K End of the World simulation where Obama is part of like 40 championships.
And he hasn't aged. Just a despot.
Maybe they really are drinking the blood of youth. Maybe QAnon is onto something. What do you think, Dave? You're part of QAnon. What do you think?
What QAnon, it says so much crazy shit that I don't know if you're making that up or not. And it's
apparently it's a thing of they scare kids to get the adrenaline going, and then they drink the blood.
Like, do they safely remove it with like a needle and like?
Oh, Dave. Oh, I don't think so.
Like vampire fangs.
Not those evil liberals. I think they're probably eating them like a coyote digging into like a deer.
It's kind of like the Big Dad, like in BioShock, right? With the little sisters, where you just like break them open and like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Those little sisters aren't coming back.
Right, and they go, no.
Yeah, I don't know. So, Dave, you tell me. You're the chapter leader of QAnon, the Arizona chapter.
There's so much shit that I know that it would literally break your mind if I had to tell you.
That's fair, dude. I'm sorry. I have to put you and your entire organization on my wish list
I had
as
a
well,
feeling
though.
this was coming. Yeah.
I also want to put on the list everyone who is all bent out of shape about Cyberpunk delaying the game again.
I was wondering if this was part of the segue.
Not really. I arrived there.
Nice. I like it then. I like it more if it wasn't planned.
This is how he got there. Just around and around. And here we are.
Yeah. We're back. We made it. So we had mentioned maybe we'd talk about the election. We did a little bit. That's the extent of our analysis. I don't care to go into it further. We'll see what happens. We also mentioned last time we might talk about video games. Didn't get to it. Now we're going to, but one thing that happened in the interim was that Cyberpunk was delayed for the third time. 21 days, just pushed back into December to be like, hey, there's a lot of different versions of this game now, so we're going to make sure they're all polished and correct because some of them are next gen and it's weird. And so even though we said for realsies that the game had gone gold and there was no way it was going to budge from November 10th, now it budged, or whatever it was. Yeah,
and they're
November
getting
10th.
Crucified.
Yeah.
And I will say, I am on their side for the most part. They are not blameless entirely. I will get to that. But again, it comes back to the Miyamoto quote, which, like, at this point, I've quoted it so much. Did he ever really even say it?
He did. It's kind of outdated now with games that can be patched and fixed after release, but it's still, I think the spirit of it is true.
Yeah, where, like, if you release a game, if you delay a game, it will eventually be good. If you release it, it's bad forever.
I would rather have a game that I have to wait 3 weeks for and be good instead of having like try to play it on day one and then it not work and then have a week later have this giant download file that I have to wait when I want to play.
So would everybody. So even the people bitching, that they would prefer that. And I'll tell you why. The Marvel game probably could have used a little more polish in a big way. And like it's not even working properly. There are people, it's like I've done like 100 certain type of missions. They haven't gotten one piece of loot dropped yet. Not one.
Great.
Yeah, they're wasting their entire time because and Anthem had the similar problem. You delay the game, you release it, you make it better. You don't release it and then rely on patches to fix it. That's you don't do that. It's not good business practice.
It almost feels like there are some, I don't know, I guess cheaper developers that want to have that model because they just want the game out. And it's like whatever, it'll get fixed eventually, which just, I don't know, it leaves such a sour taste in people's mouths, I think.
Yeah.
And bad press, really.
No, they're in trouble because here's CD Projekt Red's issue. They overshare. They overshared with all the features of Cyberpunk. All of them, like 2 years ago. And they're like, yeah, you're going to hold us to things we shared more than 2 years ago? It's like, well, then why are you sharing it so early? Don't tell us all about the goddamn wall running and all the stuff you're going to let us do if you're not sure yet and you're going to have to cut it. Transparency is great, but like just use a little bit of discretion. You don't have to show all your toys that early on. See,
the best press to do that is leak it, where you tell some reporter to tell some other reporter, be like, I heard this rumor that you're going to be able to do it. And when you're asked about it as a developer, you're like, we got a lot of ideas. I can't confirm anything. I don't know where this rumor came from. That type of thing.
And one of the things that hurt Project Red on their optics was that just yesterday, as of recording, the day before the news broke, they had someone in their social media who responded to somebody who was like, hey, like I'm about to lock in my time off for the day the game comes out. Are you guys for sure? Like, this is happening, right? And the social media account was like, yep, lock it in. And then the next day, they announced delays. Now, social media managers not tied to the developers or the higher-ups of the company. It's not necessarily fair, but still, it looks bad for them. And the people's failure to recognize that, the ones who are really hardcore trying to support them, aren't doing themselves any favors either.
Well, that's true. That is a way that's oversharing. It's being a little too accessible, right? But it's also, they're so vocal, for example, when it came to anti-crunch culture, which then when they have to crunch, that makes them look really, really bad. A lot of game companies crunch. A lot of them do it in a really bad way where they don't provide any sort of overtime pay or incentives or anything like that. CD Projekt Red does. So they would have been fine if they weren't so adamant about the anti-crunch stance. So now it looks really bad when they were forced to do it.
Yeah.
It's their own fault. They dug their own grave. But I still, I'm on their side. I don't mind delaying the game until it's really good.
I figured I'd rather have it good. And honestly, I can't remember the last game I bought on launch day. So for me, selfishly, whatever.
Yeah, Dave will play it 3 years later anyway. So
it's kind of one of those delay it 3 years. I don't care.
Yeah. Whereas I just bought one on launch today, but it was the first time in a while. So, what are you going to do? I will say, to your original point about the people who were up in arms about it going on the list, I think there is a certain element of that that's also a little exaggerated. That people who are like, I just got my time off. It's almost impossible to change it. I'm either locked in now or I can't take it again for 3 weeks. And I'm like, look, I understand there are jobs that are like that. I mean, friend of the show, Jason, gets locked into these spots sometimes where it takes, 3-4 weeks advance notice. I understand. But at the same time, it's also a game that you can play later if you have to. Unless there's a significant online component, I don't even know what the argument is, to be very honest. You're going to get spoiled, then stay the hell off of Twitter.
Would you have felt a lot better if you had spent your off day playing a buggy mess that kept crashing?
Yeah,
probably not.
Downloading a day one patch for 4 hours, or the servers aren't online properly because they weren't ready, or that annoyed me. Everything about this annoyed me. Project Red annoyed me. Those people annoyed me, and the people belittling those people also annoyed me because it's what are you doing taking a day off to play a video game? It's people can take a day off to do whatever the fuck they want. If that's their release, why is that different than going out and hiking or watching TV, binging one day?
I've done that before. I've taken staycations to play games I really care about before.
Why would you ever shame someone for what they want to do on their day off unless they're
I don't know, Dave. 2020. Who does anything for what reason?
You get shamed for not having a job. You get shamed for having a crappy job. You get shamed for trying to take time off of your job because that's part of the American culture. You have to work all day, every day till you die. You can't win. You just can't win with your job. You have to go in and work as hard as possible, not be rewarded to it by the corporate structure, and then die.
Weird, because I thought the American way is good. Just do your job really half-ass every day, just enough to scrape by to not lose your job.
I guess
that's the mentality I liked. Just kidding. If you're listening to this, employers, I'm just kidding. I work so hard.
He works 20/80. Anyways.
So our last thing was going to be, we were going to talk about games that we're playing now. Just give you an update, insight into our lives and what we like to spend our time doing.
Yeah. So I'll start because I have the shortest list.
Okay. So these are our newest COVID recommendations because COVID hasn't gone anywhere and you still need things to fill up your pop culture plate.
Yep.
Pulp.
Mario 35.
I played it too.
I actually really enjoy it.
Have you guys played each other yet?
I don't know. We can't see the usernames.
It's funny because I heard it's not that good, but now you both have said it's good. So
it's good.
Now I'm conflicted.
Look, so here's the deal. It's kind of super frustrating in some parts because if you slip up once, you're dead. Tetris 99, you can slip up and misplace a piece and fix it. Mario, if you don't jump far enough and you fall down the pit, your game is over. You don't get multiple lives. You die and you're done. But when you get toward the end, I think I got top 5 once so far. I haven't got number 1 yet, but I got top 5, and I'm running through just enemies everywhere, trying to dodge them. Trying to use the star fire flower all over the place. It's pretty exciting when you get toward the end.
There is an element of it that is a little bit more frustrating compared to Tetris 99. Dave touched on one aspect. Another one is that you can get locked into longer games if players understand the systems.
Mm-hmm.
And they can just kind of keep extending their time. Until you reach the top 5, the timer doesn't really start ticking down more aggressively. And there's plenty of ways to get extra time if you know how to do it, like running through a ton of enemies with a star or bouncing on successive enemies a bunch because it starts getting bigger and bigger. So you can get these situations where there's 7 players left, all who have max time, a ton of coins for power-ups, and they're not going to die because they're good. There's also a scenario where if people know how to mess with the drops, you can end up with, I think I've seen as many as 30 Lakitus on my screen. And they just come in these fixed rows and when you approach them. And so if you don't have a star or something, you're pretty much just fucked.
Yeah, you're
Like,
done.
you can fend off a decent wave with some fire flower shenanigans, but if there's that many on the screen, I mean, they're just gonna be throwing the spinies all over the place.
Now, do you have to progress? Because I love in so many games I play, my strategy is turtling. Can you just like, if they're sending waves over, can you just like rely on the waves to kill to get time and not necessarily progress in the level?
To an extent, yes. Particularly if you can get some place that has a high ground. It depends on the level and where you're at in it. But if you can get to a high place with a fire flower, you can fend off most stuff. The problem becomes when you've cleared everything on screen and you have to move.
Okay.
Because at a certain point, the timer is going to run out on you. Once you've killed all the enemies that have spawned, you can use that to kind of turtle and hold out, but then you have to move forward. And when you get in these really obnoxious spots, you're going to once again have another wave of them come in and be like, all right, well, now what do I do? So a little bit, you can kind of play defensive like that, but eventually you have to keep moving forward and clearing levels and stuff or you're going to die.
Yeah, it'll just end. But it's fun. It's something that is, again, one of those, much like Tetris 99. Take 5 minutes, go play. Take 10 minutes, and you can play something really quickly, play it before bed type of thing. I really enjoy that aspect of it. It's kind of like, I can't start a full game. I don't want to load up my PlayStation. Let's grab the Switch and play for 10 minutes.
This
Great.
is a personal problem. I have a really hard time justifying time spent on competitive games. Unless it's like local, like friends are over and we're playing Smash Brothers or something. I did Gwent, and eventually I dropped it because I loved it, but I dropped it because I just didn't feel like I was making enough progress.
I agree with you in a lot of ways, because stuff like Red Dead Online, Grand Theft Auto 5 Online, games that I loved, I don't have anything I want to do with the online aspect of it because I feel like there's no progression, there's no end. Like, there's no way I'm going to be finished with it. But because Mario and Tetris are so short, it's fun to do in a very short period of time just when I feel like it. I don't feel like I have to play for 3 hours to accomplish anything.
Well, I'm a flawed human being, and I want my goal for a competitive game would be I want to be the best, or at least I want to hit a tier that I'm proud of. And then once I hit that, like I did with Gwent, or I just fucking missed it, but I was like, I'm never gonna get that close again, so it's fine. And then once I do, I'm like, okay, I'm done with it now.
Yeah. Which can happen, I guess, could happen in Mario, but I mean, there's just so many people. Like, you're playing people from across the world all the time, and it's only 35 people at once. So you're going to run into all sorts of people who are insanely better than you constantly.
Yeah, I kind of like that feedback loop better than I like the monthly one. Hearthstone was a similar problem. A lot of the card games are where it's like you ladder, and at the end of the month, you get to a certain point, whatever it was, your apex, and get better rewards the higher you get, but then the next month you had to start all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
The next
Gwent's
month,
the same way.
same thing. And the next month, the same thing. It's like that. I enjoyed that for a while, but I've dropped Hearthstone, did months ago, and haven't really looked back, even though I enjoyed it quite a bit because it's the same problem. I'd rather have either very little short-term investment or like long investment, like a longer RPG. I don't really like the middle ground.
Yeah.
Speaking of long RPGs, other game I'm playing right now is Persona 5 Royal. We've talked this to death, but...
How far are you? Maisie's almost done with the new content.
I am on Kanashiro's Palace right now.
Okay.
I'm just about done with it. I got all the will seeds, guys.
Yeah.
I want you to know Maisie's big response, this isn't really a spoiler, is why doesn't she just get over it? And Chris, you'll know what I'm talking about. Why is she still dealing with it? Just get over it. I'm like, yeah, okay. Maybe you can coach her because you have everything so figured out. She's screaming from the back room. Wow, how rude this is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost like annoyed playing this right now because I just want to get to the new content. And every time I get spliced in with Maruki or Kasumi, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to see. And then I go back to the content I've already seen. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the use case like, you want to watch me draw? And you're like, no!
Yeah.
Absolutely not! Put Maruki back on the screen!
But Dave, I will tell you, that's why I made it a goal in Royal, which was also my second time playing through the game, was to max out everybody.
That's kind of, I'm cheating a little bit with some of them. Like, I'm using confidant guides to like make sure I get all the points. So I don't have to
Of course. Oh yeah, I'm not doing it by myself.
Sure.
I don't
want
to do that. I don't want to have to like, great, I missed a point, so now I have to hang out with Ryuji another night and like watch him run around the building so I can get more points to actually advance my confidant link.
Oh, Dave.
There's no shame in that.
No.
Okay.
I used a guide. I used do you know to always talk with them with their Arcana in your party, right? Okay.
Well, I've spent too much money going back summoning the personas to make sure I have the right one in my party.
Yeah.
And I can't find the counselor one. I don't have any counselor.
It's a while till you get that one, but luckily I think Maruki levels up every time anyway.
Or damn close. I think at least the first few levels, but then there is a gap you can run into if you haven't had a counselor.
I ran into one.
Wait, but there's a time when you can't level him up at all anyway. For a while.
There's a gap there. I think he's about to hit, so you should probably look into it. You should look up a Persona Fusion guide.
I have one. Oh yeah, I will. Yeah.
To see what you should be able to make a counselor by the time you get to where you are.
But like the sun and moon rank up automatically every time, so you don't have to worry about those.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to ever have a sun and a moon if you don't want to.
Full automatic.
Yep. Magician automatic.
Judgment automatic.
Yep.
Yeah, I maxed out. You don't even have to anymore. The fortune teller, get her to her ability as soon as you can.
Yep. As soon as I'm done with this palace, I will.
And then don't rank someone up to 10 for like as long as you can, because you're gonna get like I was at the end of the game and I had like 5 days or something, and I was like mapping out who I needed to talk to each day. And if you max somebody out, they're no longer on the board as an option. So if you have a day where your other people are busy, you could have spent it on that person, but now you've maxed them out. So you're like cutting days away from yourself.
Yeah.
So leave them like right at 9 for as long as you can.
Except for the cool stuff you get for maxing them out, which
is not as much now in Roy. It was a nice change. You get a lot of the meaningful stuff earlier for the most part.
Yeah, or unless you think their level 10 thing is vital. Or like the maid who you really want the 10 as early
that
as you
is
can.
a level 10 that doesn't come sooner, yeah.
Yeah, so it depends. But anyways.
And I wish I was. So yeah, that's been kind of. I've been wanting to do that, and then I'll get on Witcher 3. Is probably my next.
Yes.
I started Witcher 3, and then I didn't. But then I got Royal. I'm like, well, I'm gonna beat Royal first.
Get all the Gwent cards. Actually, I was testing 9 the other day, Final Fantasy 9, and there's an element of Gwent where like you find cards to build your Tetra deck. And I didn't care when I was like in high school playing it. I care now a lot. So that's going to be like my new thing is like all the cards. I can't wait. Let me know about your Gwen experiences, Dave.
Yep. And that is making it very difficult for my wife and I to play Phoenix Wright. Are halfway through the second case, so we have not made progress at all.
Oh, but the second case is wonderful.
I saw that wink.
No, wait. No, I'm serious. It's great. It's my favorite case of the first game.
Well, it looked like you winked, so never mind. But yeah, we were like halfway through, so I think we need to replay it too because it's been a while.
You're like, what is this? What evidence am I presenting? Who am I? And it won't be the only time your Phoenix has amnesia.
That's true. Dave and Chris, both of you, tell me the best racer you've ever played. Kart racer, regular racer, whatever.
The newest Mario Kart is probably my favorite. I actually really like it.
Don't take too much time because you'll see what I'm going to do with it and you'll feel cheated.
I would say Double Dash.
Okay. This game is better than both of those. Diddy Kong Racing is the best racer ever. Here's why. Have you actually played Diddy Kong Racing?
I did a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Very little BS.
I did probably like it slightly more than Mario Kart 64, which is a game I did like. I don't think it's the best I've ever played.
It's the best ever. Here's why. It's everything I've always wanted Mario Kart to do. It's like, yeah, you got the cups in Mario Kart, and that's pretty much it. And that's fine. Diddy Kong there's like a story that you're playing through. There's an adventure mode. You have to get enough golden balloons to progress. It has regular races. You have to get races with silver coins. You do battles. You do airplanes and hovercrafts. It's like Mario Kart on steroids. It's like Mario Kart with an adventure mode.
Wow. I had no idea there was that much depth to that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like if Mario Kart combined with Super Mario 64, that would be Diddy Kong Racing.
Where do you play this on right now?
I'm playing it on my emulator. I mean,
legally.
I'm playing it legally on my Nintendo 64. But
Busted.
Other than I think kind of racist elephant, it's been really fun. He talks like in a really like hardcore like Indian accent. And I like that's okay, but then like the things he's saying is like really kind of like I feel uncomfortable now.
It was the early 2000s, late 90s. Like we've learned a lot since then.
That's true. That's true. Other than the racist elephant, I tell you what, it's the best racer that you've ever played.
So that's Sean's games he's playing now, a 20-year-old game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm also playing all the Tactics Ogre games, which thank God for. My dog sucks. So there's a way to do like the in-depth version, but there's a way to kind of play like the vanilla version, and thank God for the vanilla version because the complex version, there's an alignment meter and like that scales between law and chaos, and every action that you do builds to this meter, including every enemy that you defeat makes your alignment go up or down. Every town that you liberate. A good town has to be liberated by a good alignment and vice versa, or you can't get the best ending. And it's like a level of micromanagement that I cannot understand how anyone could ever do.
That sounds like really awful.
Yeah, like you have to play it with a guide, and like even then you would just be crawling through it. So I'm just playing it like, okay, if I get the worst ending, like fine. I'm just going to play on my own by myself and get through it. And then it's been really fun.
Doesn't sound like a fun thing to do at all.
Well, but my version's fun.
Oh, well.
Tactics Ogre and Ogre Battle 64.
Tactics Ogre.
Yeah, it seems like it would be like it's not no one who looks like Shrek is in the game. It is a bizarre title that I still don't really know. I think it's because they're trying to compare humans to monsters, like humans like an ogre. I don't know. It's not great. I'm not selling it very well, but it's like really good.
Also, tactics games have never been fun for me.
Oh, it's like my favorite genre right now.
I never liked those types of games.
I don't know if there's a bigger difference between the two of us right now.
Well,
probably not
in QAnon.
not even just in fucking running a chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I guess in the Arizona chapter of QAnon, you guys don't play tactics games together.
Turn-based, man. That's the only way to do it.
You guys don't probably do a lot of activities that involve like intelligence together, though, I would imagine.
I would actually say that the turn-based element of video games is more true than you would know.
Damn. I don't even know what that means. I think that's I can't fathom it. It's too advanced.
What are you playing, Chris?
I'm playing Mario 35. I play that for like 20 minutes every night before bed. It's a nice way to kind of unwind before I go to sleep. Or get mad, when I finish second. I've won like 7 times, so I'm only saying that to brag to Dave. That's it. There's no other reason for it.
I've only played like 7 times total. So.
There you go. And the other 2 new additions, one just started today as of recording. That's Trails of Cold Steel 4. It's on the YouTube channel. It always does big numbers for us. We did it live on Tuesday. It worked out pretty well. Actually exceeded audience participation, so that was nice.
I'm actually looking at the screen that you guys had when it was up and you were streaming it, and there's like a boatload of comments from people.
Yeah.
That's really cool. You guys are getting really good engagement on it.
Yeah, it was the first time we've ever done anything live other than that one radio show that we did on another platform. And I mean, we do have a built-in user base to some extent just because of the YouTube channel, so it wasn't like we just turned on a stream for the first time. But even so, I mean, I was pleased with the response to it. I'd love to do more of it, but yeah. And then finally is Genshin Impact, which, Dave, you might actually want to look into at some point as well, because it's basically Breath of the Wild, but better. And that's the hill I'm going to die on with today's hot take prediction.
So here's my issue with Genshin Impact. I think it sounds cool. I would be interested, but I heard the end game is similar to the end game of whatever the sequel, the second Mordor Shadows of Mordor game, whatever that was called, where it starts getting so grindy that like it's impossible to move forward with anymore unless you're willing to spend some money. Particularly what I read was the resin. Like you get to the point where you're playing for 15 minutes a day to get your resin, then you're spending it all like immediately, and then unless you're going to buy more, you have nothing else to really spend your time on. So that's it for the day.
It's meant to be done in smaller bursts. For the people that want to try and mainline this in like 8 hours a day, not the right format for it. And you can argue that the resin should be more forgiving. I think there's certainly a viable argument there. But at the same time, it's more meant to be one of those games like a mobile game, which it is, that you download and you play for half an hour or an hour every day, as opposed to one you marathon and try and inject into your veins.
Okay.
So yes, the resin can be unforgiving because a lot of times like a big boss might take 40 of your 120 that you have in a day, but you're not supposed to be playing it all day.
How is that better than Breath of the Wild then? It seems like a completely different experience.
Well, it's a free game.
So it doesn't sound like it from anything we described so far. It's a gacha game, which is basically what a lot of the mobile games are, where it's like, get this currency, grind out the currency, try and get lucky on characters or items, and see what happens. The thing is, you don't really need any of them. The 5 stars are nice, but you can get by with the characters you're given and the weapons that you can find in the world. Other than the gacha aspect, the game is fucking Breath of the Wild. The world looks like Breath of the Wild. The drowning animation looks like Breath of the Wild. You have a glider. It's mysterious. You have a stamina meter. There's a big world to explore. You find shrines that are not called shrines. It's so blatantly stolen from Breath of the Wild that you almost have to admire them for doing it without violating any copyright laws.
Interesting.
And it's not the only game out there that's doing that right now.
We were
which
talking
is smart.
about that yesterday. There's a Immortals game. It's an Ubisoft game coming out, and like, there's literally, they use a strength thing that looks like magnetic whatever force going out and manipulating objects.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a glider. There's stamina stuff. Like, to me, like, I know, like, homage and whatever, but like, to me, this is crossing the line a bit.
A little bit, but it's also smart to be derivative, right? I mean, how many Game of the Year awards did Breath of the Wild win? And clearly the format had its success. Certainly the exploration is a part I absolutely loved. We talked about the game, in a past episode. But like, so is the end game content in Genshin good? I don't know. I'm not there yet. But I'm in the stage where I'm exploring everywhere and like finding things and collecting items and just going in a direction and seeing what's out there. Scratches that same itch. And if anything, I kind of like the combat more. And it's not close. Now, Breath of the Wild has some advantages. I'm not saying it's just Genshin's outright better. I mean, the setting's great. I love the Zelda setting to begin with. And the characters are much more beloved there. But I've kind of been enjoying my time with Genshin more, and that's weird to me. And it's free.
No, free is a good price.
So, yes, it has some flaws compared to a $60 retail game. But if you want to spend money on characters, you can. It's a bad idea. Or you just play the free version and enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, as Nintendo, I would be upset. As a gamer who gets to basically play Breath of the Wild reskinned, like, that's fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get away with it, great, I'll play it.
The interesting thing is there's only 2 of the 7 elements represented so far by regions. So in theory, this game is probably slightly smaller than Breath of the Wild's world right now, but because it's going to continually get upgrades, because it is a gacha game and a mobile-type game, that world's going to be mammoth by the time it's done. Like, probably 3 times the size of Breath of the Wild's. So, it's interesting. That's what I've been playing. And that's about it for the show.
Yeah, I think we arrived at the end. Maisie came out to defend her honor on Persona, but
We didn't give her a chance.
Didn't say anything. So
She's a terrible Persona player. She can't defend herself.
No, go away. I like the idea of just like, she's not a real person. We just made her up.
Don't
actually.
let her. You can't put her on screen. It can't happen. She's just out of frame. Don't worry about it.
The funny thing is, she is on camera, but she's like a vampire. She just doesn't show up on film.
Oh yeah, she's right here. You guys can't see her. She's right here.
Yeah.
And then Siri ran up to defend her honor, but nobody cares about her either, so she's running downstairs, and that's how the episode ends. So that's it for this episode. In between shows, you can find us on our website, objectionnetwork.com, or on youtube.com/objectionnetwork for that Trails of Cold Steel 4 playthrough we mentioned earlier. We will have a show next week, no show the week of Veterans Day, a show the following week, and no show the week of Thanksgiving, just to warn you in advance. We'll remind you about that next week. See you next time.